Alright, once you have your debugger window open and your programs downloaded, go ahead and under Program Debug, hit Start. And then we're going to come down to our right motor here, and we'll start here. And I want you to enter the value of 127, and I want you to hit Enter. And I want you to observe what's happening to that motor. Then type in -127 and hit Enter and see what happens. Next thing I want you to type in is 15 and hit Enter and see what happens. Type in -15 and see what happens. Then I want you to type in 300 and hit Enter and see what happens. And then go ahead and type in 127 again and see what happens. And so the things that I want you to observe and be able to understand with the motor is I want you to figure out what the maximum power value is for the motor, and I want you to also be able to understand what the negative and positive numbers do. And so when you have that figured out, go ahead and record that motors, the maximum power and what the negative number does to a motor in your engineering notebook. The next thing we're going to test is your 3-wire servo. So under here, under the power column, first thing I'm going to do is type in -127 and hit Enter. And notice what the servo does. A servo is a motor that sets a position. And so when I type in -127, it set the position of the servo to 0 degrees. So the range of the servo is between 0 and 120 degrees. And so if I type in 127 under power, the servo will rotate 120 degrees. And it will only rotate between those 2 points. And so if you think about a protractor where it would be at, it just rotated 120 degrees. So I'll type in -127 and type that again, and you can see, visualize that in your head, that servo is rotating between 0 degrees and 127 degrees based on the value that I type in. If I type in 60 degrees, it's going to move it straight up to where 90 degrees would be on if there was a protractor there. And so again, -127 gives you 0 degrees, 60 gives you 90 degrees, and 127 gives you 120 degrees. And so you could type in any value within the range of -127 to 127 and calculate the angle that the servo is going to move. So make sure that you record in your engineering notebook how a servo works and the different values you can type in and what those values do. The last output that we have to test is the flashlight. And so there's a toggle switch on top of the flashlight. You're going to want to make sure that that toggle switch is switched to on, the on position. And then under flashlight, again, you're going to type in values. If I type in 127 and hit Enter, see what happens. Type in -127 this time and see what happens. So understand that the negative value for power in this place, there is no reverse on a flashlight. And so it can't go darker than off. So negative numbers do nothing with the flashlight. So type in 60 and hit Enter. Type in 30 and hit Enter. See what happens. Type in 127 again and hit Enter and see what happens. Then type in like 300 and hit Enter and see if it changes at all. So what you should find is that the maximum brightness or the maximum power for a flashlight is 127. That's the value for that. And that you can get ranges anywhere from 0 to 127 to power your flashlight. So make sure in your engineering notebook you're recording the values for the flashlight and what values you can type in and what works, and how those values work with the flashlight.